The Broad Street Sports Podcast featuring Zachary Chavy, and today I'll be giving you my 2024-2025 MLB playoff predictions, going through every series, who I have winning, and ultimately who I have winning the World Series. Alright, so talking about the first series, I know I'm a little bit late, but the Tigers already have taken a 2-1 or 1-0 lead against the Astros. They won Game 1 today by the score of 3-1 and are looking to close out the series in an upset tomorrow around 2:30. Ultimately, I still think the Astros could win this series, but I feel like the Tigers, they put Screwball out there, and it showed why he was the Cy Young why he's going to be the Cy Young this year in the American League, in my opinion. And I still very much think that the Astros are still very much in this series. I just like the Tigers right now. I think the Tigers could win this series. The Tigers have nothing to lose at this point. They're one big family. They play for each other, and I feel like that's what's going to carry them to the next round. And for the Astros, just have a lot of questions to answer moving on into the offseason. And then moving on to the other game that's happening right now in the American League, it's the Royals and Orioles. The Royals are up 1-0 right now, going to the top of the eighth. It's been a pitcher's duel in that one, and ultimately I think the Orioles, even though they might lose this game, I still think they will win the series because they just have the better bats than the Royals. I think Bobby Witt is good for them. They have MJ Melendez. They have all these other guys on their team, but I just think the Orioles with their bats of Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, Colton Cowser, guys like that, and then you can't forget about Anthony Santander for them. But I think the Orioles at the end of the day will get the series win because they've had more playoff experience in the past than the Royals have, and Corbin Burns has been pitching well, and there's still a whole lot of game left for the Orioles just to get a couple runs and take this game. And then I'm just going to move on to the National League side, and I'll get back to the ALDS after this. So the final game that is currently happening right now, it just kicked off. The Brewers are currently up 1-0 in the bottom of first, and they have a runner on first and second, 1-0 count with one out. And the Brewers, I just think, will win this series. The Mets, they are a very good team. They just, like I said, with the Tigers, they're just one big family, and the Mets has just built so much chemistry, and that's ultimately what's carried them to the playoffs. But I just think the Brewers, they're just a very solid team, and I feel like they will be able to beat the New York Mets. Because you think about it, they got Freddie Peralta pitching today, and then we'll see what they put out tomorrow. But then they got guys like Willie Adames, Rhys Hoskins. Then I know they're missing Christian Yelich, but at the same time, they have Jackson Chourio, who's been a great rookie for them. And I just think at the end of the day, what they have set up for them is just better than what the New York Mets have right now. So that's why I have them winning. And then the final series for the wild card, the Atlanta Braves and the San Diego Padres. I had the Padres winning this series because I think Chris Sale not being able to play in the wild card, he's not even on the wild card roster, will pay a huge dividend because he's been their best players with Acuna and Strider both going down and guys like Austin Riley going down. I know Albies is back, but there's still so much injuries on this team, and I think the Padres have been playing red hot, especially with their rookie sensation Jackson Merrill, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s back, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. They just have a great team overall, and I think that's what's going to put them over the top in this series. And then moving on to the ALDS and NLDS, the Guardians and the Tigers. Even though the Tigers, they had a nice series win, I think they'll have against the Astros. I honestly do think the Guardians will head to the ALCS no matter who they play in that series. The Guardians, they just have such a good team. J-Ram has been on a tear this year. And they just have they got Stephen Kwan. They just have so many solid guys on their team, and I feel like they're like a team like the Brewers. They're just so good, and I feel like that they can just, the team they have set up currently can just carry them at least to the championship series. I don't know how much farther they'll get from there. But ultimately, the Guardians, I think they could win a series no matter who they play between the Astros and Tigers in this thing, because I have the Tigers, but I mean, it's anyone's game, and I just think the Guardians at the end of the day will beat the Tigers in I don't know how many games, but I think they'll head to the ALCS. Moving on to the Yankees and Orioles, I think the Yankees will win this series, even though they've been kind of up and down towards the end of the season. They still got Aaron Judge. They got Juan Soto. They got Garrett Cole. They have the guys there to set up for the playoffs. And I feel like the Yankees finally being back in the playoffs, especially being the 1 seed, will pay huge dividends for them, and that ultimately the pitching will be able to shut down the Orioles offense enough to the point where the bats just need to wake up a little bit for the Yankees, and that's what ultimately I think will win them the series. I feel like they can shut down Gunnar Henderson completely, and this offense, I feel like they could turn it very one-dimensional with the Orioles because, I mean, they're getting shut out by the Royals right now, and Reagans is pitching for them. So, I mean, if they're, no offense to him, but if they can't hit against him, who knows if they can hit against Garrett Cole, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon. So it will be interesting to see. And then moving on to the National League side, the Dodgers and the Padres. In this series, I think I have these LA Dodgers in my opinion, because I just think the Dodgers, they finally got their superstar in Shohei Ohtani. I know that they've had other superstars, but Ohtani, this is his time to shine. He's finally in the playoffs. He's ready to show his talent to the world, and I think that's what put them over the top. I know they traded for a guy like Dylan Cease, who's been on a career resurgence ever since he's got to San Diego. I just think, even though losing Tyler Glasnow for the Dodgers is tough too, but I think Yamamoto will pitch well. They got Kershaw. They have Walker Buehler there. I think the Dodgers just offense will be able to overpower the Padres in a very offensive-heavy series. But when it comes down to it, I think the Dodgers pitching can be a little bit more reliable than the Padres in the series, and that's why I have them winning. And then moving on to the Phillies and Brewers, this one's a tough one for me. I think the Phillies, they've been really up and down, not only the end of this month, but the entire second half, and it's like really making me think if I should pick them, in my opinion. I know they've been a great team all year, but it's just tough to say like what they're actually going to do with it. So, but in my opinion, I just think the Phillies could just overtop the Brewers a little bit, because I think the pitching for the Phillies is a little bit better than what the Brewers can have to offer, especially trading Corbin Burns. That's always tough. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Phillies just will be able to, because I think I like their offense a little bit more too, especially if these bats can wake up for the Phillies and be consistent. They might be the most dangerous team in the postseason. It's just you don't know what you're going to get out of them, because they've been so up and down so far. They've been so up and down the second half, so you don't really know what offense you're going to get from the Phillies every single night, and that might be the deciding factor for them in a 5-7 game series. So, but I do have the Phillies winning this series. So moving on to the ALCS and NLCS, the Guardians and the Yankees. I know it's not the popular pick, but I just think the Yankees, I think they're the favorite in the American League without a doubt. I feel like the Orioles might be the only team in the American League to give them the real threat, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, the Guardians are a good team, but I think the Orioles will be the only team that will give them a real chance, I think, in like challenging them for that AL pennant. But I just think the Yankees, they got Juan Soto for a reason. They brought in guys like Marcus Stroman. They've got Alex Verdugo, hasn't been great, but at the end of the day, I think the Yankees, they're ready to go back. They haven't been there in a while, and I just think they have the team to do it. Aaron Judge, he's a superstar. Juan Soto is a superstar, and I think the Yankees will head to the World Series. Now, who I have them facing, this one's a tough one. I know the Phillies can beat the Dodgers, and I know the Dodgers, they could be firing at all cylinders now that they have Ohtani there, and he's finally in the playoffs. But in my personal opinion, I do think that the LA Dodgers will beat the Philadelphia Phillies in 7 games. I think this might be, if this ends up happening, this is going to be the most competitive series of the entire postseason. And I just think at the end of the day, the Dodgers will be able to get it done over the Phillies. I know the Phillies have had their number during the regular season, but this is just a different animal with Ohtani in the postseason. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. He could be a completely different animal against the Phillies. So I just think that's what the deciding factor is going to be, like just trying to handle him. And they still got solid guys like Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. You can't forget about those guys. They're really good for them. And I just think that's what will put them over the top and take them to the World Series. And in the World Series, the Dodgers versus the Yankees. This one's very tough for me, but I do have the New York Yankees getting another championship over the LA Dodgers in 6 games. I just think Juan Soto, I think we could see a 2019 Juan Soto all over again in this postseason, because even though he didn't have to be the main guy, he stepped up and was the main guy for them in 2019. And I feel like he can do that again. He can take a little bit of the weight off Aaron Judge and just go out there and carry the team and lead them to the World Series. And I think that they will be able to do that. And the Dodgers, just another year of disappointment. I just honestly think the Yankees will do it. So that's my prediction. I have the Yankees beating the Dodgers in the World Series in 6 games. If you have any disagreements, just put your thoughts in the comments. Other than that, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Look out for an episode on Thursday where I'll have some special guests on, specifically talking about the Phillies and what their expectations are for the postseason this year. But other than that, you guys have a great rest of your night and enjoy the rest of the wild card games for today and tomorrow.